Pocket hole jigs. That's what we're going to talk about today. Stay tuned. Hey guys, ever seen these? These are called pocket holes. They're holes drilled at an angle into a piece of wood into which you put screws to connect that piece of wood to another piece of wood. Now here's another example of a pocket hole. Now this piece of wood here is connected to this piece of wood, and this is the pocket hole that connects it. Notice how the hole is drilled at an angle, and inside the hole is a screw head. Let me see if you guys can see that. You guys see the screw head in there? Well, if you can, it's in there. That's a pocket hole, guys. All right, guys, so how do you create those pocket holes in your material? Well, they have what's called pocket hole jigs, and that's what you see here in front of you right now. It's from the company called Craig. All right, this is a Craig pocket hole jig, and you simply place your material in the jig. So if I take this piece of wood here and you tighten it up, just for an example, and then you drill the pocket holes through these holes here. But let's go over some of the accessories that come with the jig to help you create the pocket holes. This is the material thickness gauge. It helps you determine the thickness of your material, because if you put a screw in that's too long, it's going to go right through the material and that won't be good. So this helps you determine how thick your wood is so you know to choose the right screw. It has some metrics on it. You have 1.5, 3/4, all the way up to 1.5 inches in depth. Okay, and this is how it works. You take your wood and you take the gauge and you put it alongside it like that. And then you just read down how deep the wood or thickness goes on the gauge. This is about 3/4 of an inch, in that range. This is the drill bit that comes with the jig, and obviously you use it to drill your pocket holes. Now, if you notice on the drill bit, let me bring it a little closer there, you have the same metrics. Let me flip it over. You have 1/2, 3/4, and 1.5, okay? And you have another accessory called the stop collar. And if you look at the stop collar, it has a screw that's embedded in the circumference or in the body of the stop collar. And then if you turn it, you have this open window on the stop collar. Well, you take your stop collar and you slide it over your drill bit like that, and you line the open window on the stop collar up with the metric on the drill bit that coincides with how thick your material is. So we measured 3/4 of an inch in thickness on our piece of wood, right? So let's line our window up with that metric right there. So once you do that, you want to take your material thickness gauge. And if you notice on the material thickness gauge, you have these extensions coming off of it. These are hex keys, okay? That you line up with the screw on the stop collar, which has a hex head. And you place the hex key in there and tighten the stop collar onto the drill bit, like that. And remember these holes on the jig? Those are guides. And the purpose of the stop collar on the drill bit is to stop the drill bit from going any further into the guide that you use, creating a pocket hole at the depth that you want. Now, don't forget to set the measurements on your drill guide to correspond to the measurements on your drill bit that you took with your measurement thickness gauge, okay? So if you notice on your drill guide, you have 1/2, 3/4, and 1.5. So we know we want to go to 3/4 of an inch, right? That's what we had on our measurement thickness gauge. So in order to do that on your drill guide, you have these tabs here. You have one on this side and you have one on this side. So right now it's at 1/2. You want to press those tabs in at the same time and slide it up to 3/4. If it seems difficult to do that, just press the tabs in with one hand and use the other hand to slide it up or pull up the guide to the desired measurement. Okay, so there's a couple of ways to position your workpiece in the jig. One of them is to align the center of any of these pocket holes to wherever you want to put it on your workpiece. Well, if you look on the mold, you see these engraved lines designating the center of each of these holes. This center line is designated as 1. This one is designated as 2, and this one is designated as 3. So I have a piece of wood here. From here to here is about 5.5 inches, and if you turn it this way, it's about 22.5 inches. Anything over 3.5 inches, your pocket holes should be 5/8 to 1.5 inches from the edge. So if I want to place pocket holes along this edge, my pocket holes should be 5/8 to 1.5 inches from the edge. And the same with the longer edge. My pocket holes should be 5/8 to 1.5 inches from the edge, and every 6 to 8 inches from there on. Now, if you have a piece of material that's about 1.25 to 3.5 inches wide, this is about 3.25 inches wide, then you want to use these marks on your jig to center your pocket holes. They're shorter than the center line marks that I showed you before for anything over 3.5 inches wide. That's the shorter marks right there. So this one is designated A, this is designated B, and this one is designated C. And they have a table in your owner's manual, if you buy it brand new, to show you which pocket hole guides to use depending on the width of your material. So I'm going to scribe some guidelines on my material to make it easier for me to line up my pocket hole guidelines. That's the 5/8 mark. That's the 1.5 inch mark. So once again, the pocket hole has to be between 5/8 and 1.5 inches from the edge for anything over 3.5 inches wide. So when you're getting ready to drill your pocket holes, you want to make sure that your material is clamped down or secure. Now, they do provide you with a clamp, okay? But I'm going to use my own clamps right now. I got some clamps right here, okay? And I'm going to clamp my material like this. And the pocket hole jig handle has a trigger. And when you squeeze the trigger, as you can see, the guide closes in onto the material. If you want to release the guide, you got to pull this little trigger here. So let's put our pocket hole jig on the material. Squeeze the trigger to clamp it on. And I have my drill bit with my stop collar and my drill ready to drill. So you want to place your drill bit in the guide that you want to use first. Then you want to make sure that the drill bit is at full speed before you start to penetrate the material. Pull the drill bit out. Then you go to your next pocket hole. Let's see how we're looking. There's your pocket holes. All right, so once you've drilled out your pocket holes, you want to connect your wood with the pocket holes with your other piece of wood, right? But before you do that, you want to make sure that you have the right screw size for your pocket hole. Now, the pocket hole we drilled was 3.25 inches based on the material thickness, which was 3.25 inches. So you have to match the appropriate screw size to that measurement. So for 3.25 inches, we have to have a 1.25 inch screw in order to put in that pocket hole. And they have a table for the different screw sizes that you need in your owner's manual. Now this time we're going to use another accessory that comes with the jig. It's a drill driver. And if you notice the tip of the driver, look at that. It's a square shape. Why is that? Because it's meant to insert itself into the screw head. And if you notice, the screw head has a square shaped opening as well. And the driver is also magnetic. And you don't have to have your material flat on a surface like that all the time. You can also put the material in the pocket jig like that and drill down in your holes that way. And if you have to, the handle on the jig even rotates in different orientations to make it easier for you to complete the job if necessary. Oh yeah, there's another great thing about these jigs. There's something called a quick release on them. So if you have materials of similar size and you put them in the jig, tighten the jig, you go right here. This is the quick release knob. You want to tighten this. What that does is when you release the grip by pulling the release trigger, this one, it doesn't go back all the way, allowing you just enough room to take out your material, put material of a similar size in, and because the gap is not so wide, you don't have to take as long to tighten it again. That saves a lot of time. And then when you're done with that material, you simply loosen the quick release knob, pull the release trigger, and it goes back all the way to its original opening. Hey, you can do a lot with these pocket jigs, especially if you're a creative person. If you learned something about pocket jigs today, hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.